Time for the Canes to get back to work, folks. We will do just the same here for the next 60 minutes with Cam Underwood from State of the U. Time for us to get back to work here on the Voice of College Football. Canes, we're here on a Wednesday night at 7 Eastern, so hit the like button, get yourself settled, bring some folks with you, share these videos out on social media, let people know that we're going to be here talking Miami football with all of you. Cam, how are you?
Good. Can't complain. Back after a week of spring break along with the students and team from the University of Miami. But yeah, here to hang out. Let's party.
So before we dive into football, which is, of course, all we do here, how excited are you about this Sweet 16 run? Both men and women, I believe, correct?
Both men and women, yeah. Second consecutive for the men. Made it to the Elite Eight last year. So looking to continue that. Beat Indiana in the second round. And number 1 seed Indiana went down at home to the women's team also. So, yeah, we went 2-0 against Indiana on this past weekend. So I know that they don't like us very much and everything, but hey, it is what it is. But yeah, very excited, man. I grew up as a basketball player. Like that was the first sport that I was more naturally talented at basketball than anything else, like baseball, which I love, but I had to work to be like a replacement level rotation player on like varsity high school. Like, I was not good, but I love the game of baseball. Basketball just lives in me in a different place, and seeing what they're doing and everything, especially, even though we're a Power 5 team, the men's team basically they're a mid-major. They got 4 guards. You got a center who's 6'7", with the long wingspan and everything, but you're sized like a mid-major team, but with high major talent, doing that. So, they just all can, dribble the ball, pass the ball. We play at a really high offensive tempo, even though it's more, we run when we can, but, in the half court, they get the job done. So very excited about, both the men's and women's teams playing on Friday. The women play at 2:30, I just saw, and the men play at 7:30 or 44. Yeah, it's the second start game. So it's like 7:15, 7:30 on Friday night. So yeah, I'm very excited. This is a success that Miami did not have in basketball when I was a student. So getting to see that now is, really, really a great thing. And I love hearing everybody, talking about, oh yeah, they're Bush League or they're this, they're that, like John Ruiz just bought a team and whatever, blah, blah. I'm like, Isaiah Wong was recruited here and everything. He's developed into the ACC Player of the Year. Norchet Omir is from Miami, but transferred back after being at Arkansas State, where he was, defensive and overall conference player of the year previously. Nigel Pack transferred here from Kansas State. Sure, we got the Cavinder twins who transferred on the women's side and everything. So, yeah, but this is the state of college athletics now. Like, you're going to have plenty of transfers. You're going to have plenty of homegrown people. The Destiny Harden, number 3 for the women's team, who hit the game winner. She's homegrown from Miami, has been on this roster for many a year. So, hey, people can be mad at it, but they cannot hate on the greatness. And to the ACC, which is a conference like we've talked about, spinning it towards football side, right, about how they overlook the University of Miami, right? How, like, in the favored son pantheon of the ACC, Miami is near at the bottom. The only team on the men's side to make it to the Sweet 16 this year is the University of Miami. And that extends the currently ongoing longest streak of consecutive 6 Sweet 16s made by a specific conference. So hate all you want, right? But your precious record and everything, AMI, fight. It's because of us that record is continuing. And I know that has to, they're, sour faces. They're sucking lemons up there in whatever random North Carolina city that they put the conference office now and everything and whatever. But they can be mad about it. But when you talk about it, be sure that you respect what we're doing on both sides, the men's and women's basketball side of things.
What was that chant? I've never heard that one before.
It's from the fight song, AMI, fight.
Okay. All right. It made total sense. I just don't believe I actually heard it before.
Yeah, you've heard it, but it's not like everybody doesn't say it. The band says it.
Out of you.
Right. Well, anyway. Well, no, you probably, probably not. But yeah. It's
don't recall that.
That one, that fight song that goes on, the Miami fight, is, I believe, I should know the title. My friend Joe, who was band captain, is going to kill me if I don't remember. I believe it's called entitled Miami Fight, but yeah, that chant is in the middle. No, everybody, yeah, it's prorated and then truncated, so it's M, I, and so it goes slow, and at the end, MIAMI, fight. But we do that in basketball, we do that in football, and that's what we're here to talk about.
I had to take a break to do something here, but I watched that Indiana game about as closely as any NCAA tournament game I've seen this season, and it was really tight until about 8 minutes left, something in that range, and then Miami put the hammer down, just too fast, too quick, and put the press on and took it away from there. Made a really good game a rout.
Yeah, all that press, that really did it to them. So, and it was interesting because they have players from schools that, I mean, obviously we're 20 something years on from when I played, but like seeing somebody from Culver Academy like starting on the Indiana team, I'm like, that was a team full of shooters even when I played 20 something years ago. So I'm pretty sure that 32 can shoot it, so like, things like that. But yeah, ended up working out that win, and it would be great to be able to say that we did the same thing on the football field this coming season and moving forward.
I am interested to see Cam's reaction to this super chat, because there's a mix of vitriol and elation and all sorts of stuff working here. So this would be before Cam was a student, of course, and before he was a fan, which he was introduced first by the baseball team, and then
correct.
You took in that famed Sugar Bowl game against Alabama, correct? And that was one of the first.
I mean, that was national football. TV back then.
Yeah, one of the first football memories. But here we have, and I remember this game. Michigan was up, I believe, by 2 scores in the fourth quarter, and Jimmy Johnson's Miami passing attack came back and won at 31-30 at the Big House.
Yeah. I vaguely remember this one. It was a literal month after my 7th birthday, so I was kind of in the sport, kind of out. I think I had a music thing. Might have had a recital or something. So like I wasn't watching this game or at this game like I was at other Michigan games and whatnot. But it's a thing, Miami and Michigan have played a few times, in the past. I would love to see it again personally because, I grew up in Michigan, in Detroit. So I'm a native Michigander and grew up, my uncle Bill went to the University of Michigan. I have lots of friends. I mean, like I went to Cranbrook, like half of my graduating class either went to Michigan or State, probably 70% either went to Michigan or State. And then the rest was kind of, fluttered around wherever else. So yeah, like good old maize and blue, and everything are colors that I know very well. So those are the colors of my youth. And then, obviously the color of my choosing colors, orange, green, and white. I would love to see that again. So, I mean, okay, salute, I guess, that's a fun memory and like something that I've, learned about and, watched the, VHS at one time about, and everything. So yeah, good with that and everything. But I would love personally to see Miami and Michigan face up. I mean, even if it's now, whatever, like, hey, if it's not on equal footing and like, Miami's the underdog because Miami's always the underdog and people hate us. Great. I would love to see that. And I would not be rooting for I would not be rooting for the University of Michigan because I wouldn't want to be on the side of my Uncle Bill because he always runs his mouth about everything. But, I'll root for my team and, I would love to see the spectacle of those teams playing again.
Yes, Leroy, we've got some merch here. It looks good. So grab the link in the chat that I've just dropped, thevoiceofcollegefootball.com, nice. And follow us to our merch site there. All right, let's get down to some football. And the first thing that comes to mind for me would actually be not connected to spring practice. It's more, since we haven't talked for a few weeks, more on the recruiting front. And I know that there may not be anything that's of note or newsworthy right this second, but as we start to head toward a place where you can fill us in on any big recruiting weekends, because as I do these shows, I keep hearing about what's coming up here in the next few weekends. Yeah. I would think there would be the same for Miami.
Absolutely. So this weekend is looking like it's going to shape up to be another big visit weekend. I literally just saw about 4 or 5 other players in addition to other ones that have previously been talked about as coming down who are going to, or who have stated their intent to be on campus in Coral Gables this Saturday. So obviously that goes with practice, and then the meet and greet, barbecue, whatever they're going to do for these visitors. But yeah, I mean, it seems like IMG Academy is going to come down, and obviously they have a bunch of different players. I saw there was a kid from Arizona, a 4-star, who was coming down. Another couple kids from California, things like that. So yeah, there's lots of different players. David Stone from IMG, he would probably be the headliner to me, 5-star defensive lineman on their team. He's a guy that we talked about last year when, obviously we recruited very well from IMG, even though, we had several guys committed and then they transferred to IMG. But still, like, they're there and, working other teammates and whatnot. So, but I would say, yeah, 5-star David Stone would be the headliner for me, and then a bunch of other guys. So yeah, this weekend looks like it's going to be chock full of talent on campus on Saturday and everything. And yeah, it's eventually guys are going to start popping in terms of committing to Miami and things like that. You obviously have the ongoing through the cycle. Hey, let's look at the big three and then compare them in terms of their recruiting success. And Florida State has gotten a lot of early commitments. So is Florida. Those teams are both in the top 15 presently today on March the 22nd. Miami has a singular commit from a kicker. I think stands 84th nationally in terms of recruiting. Not the kicker. He's either number 1 or top 5, but positional value, ranking, points, all those kind of things. So you're like, oh, like, yeah, top 10, number 84. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not going to end there. And I know that it's an easy point of conversation, for every content creator who talks about either, I mean, pretty much the landscape of college football. Hey, we're going to look at the big three in Florida and see how the recruiting is going. The recruiting is going well, but it's not at the point yet where Miami has a bunch of commitments. And I think that, two things can be true there. But like seeing what Mario Cristobal did in the 3 weeks that he had in 2022, the whole cycle he had, which is really half of a cycle, because remember, recruiting really elite guys is like a 2 or 3 year or more engagement and relationship, but having a full year, calendar year in a couple weeks, you go from 15th, 17th, I think, with, a Spartan force in 22, you jump all the way up to like 4th, then, Cormine and McLean does Cormine and McLean things and whatever, and ends up about 7th nationally. Again, the proof's in the pudding. I'm very confident that in the end, we're going to be very pleased with the haul of players. So, this is a group and a staff and led by a head coach who is known for tirelessly recruiting and doing it at an elite level, where he himself has been named the National Recruiter of the Year multiple times. So yeah, it is. This is definitely laying the foundation. This is really starting to really firm up those relationships with those younger guys. Like a King Joseph Edwards is a 4-star defensive end. I've seen his name on the timeline a lot. I watched his highlights and everything. He's been down to Miami a couple times. Seems like Miami is really pushing towards the forefront for him as well, right? Air Noland. There's another quarterback. Dang it, Huma something, I think is his last name. But he's supposed to be visiting this weekend as well. And he's a blue chip quarterback. And obviously Miami does not have one in this class. And I believe really needs to get a blue chip quarterback on the back of Emory Williams in the previous class. Now, Emory Williams can be good and get developed and he can be great, but like, I would like to see adding elite talent to that position. But all of these things and all these visits and things are starting to really fold in as teams are on spring break, and players are really starting to prioritize their recruitments, because obviously with the early enrollment, deadline and timeline and, early signing period, things are moving up. So you're now seeing guys are going to visit in March and take officials in April. And then they're talking about, there's another kid, the number, was he 2 offensive linemen or 2 offensive tackle, 4 offensive tackle, something like that in the nation. His commitment date is April the 11th. And he's a 24 kid, so he's committing, and then, we'll see if there's flip or whether, but like he plans to commit and then probably early enroll. So like these timelines are up. So yeah, like it's really good that that's on your brain and that you even asked that, because like, yeah, this is that time where things start to pop, and you're really going to start to see Miami bringing in a lot of talent and do their evaluations and really start to press in. Like if you remember last year around this time, this is really when we saw a lot of that. And then, even though names on the radar already great, hey, we want all of those, but names can come from off the radar, get down there, camp, visit, get sized up by whomever, worked out, and things can be malleable on that as well. But yeah, this is the time. We've already had a bunch of elite visitors down, and to campus, and then this weekend we're going to continue that trend with another bevy, large group of blue chippers, and then just continue. And like I said, every hour, half hour, 15 minutes, I'm seeing, oh, this other guy. Oh, I'm coming. Oh, I'm coming. Oh, I'm coming. Oh, I'm coming. It's just like the list keeps going and going and going. So, this is what you brought Mario Cristobal here to do. You get a lot of eyes in there. You get a lot of, foot traffic through the doors, of the football operations center and everything. And then we go from there.
Cam, as I recall, our conversations about the recruiting process and the recruiting cycle and kind of the cycle of the year and the year's events, I can recall sitting here at the same juncture on the calendar, and because there's a big wave here of recruiting visits, and then there's another big wave in June of it being more like a 4 to 6 weeks after that wave in June, as to being at the point that you're going to start to make a determination: are things going well, or things not going so well?
Yeah, but I think you can even extend that out, right? Because last year I put it on, it was June 1st, I want to say, but they got like a ton of commitments mid-June, like a week, 10 days after my pick it out of the sky deadline, right? So even that 1 week, I'm like, yeah, it doesn't seem to me going well. Boom, 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 boom. And it's like, oh, well, and again, I personally, like I said, I picked a line or a deadline or a time, and I said by then. So I would say, honestly, you got to look at it maybe even a little bit later. Just because, and it's that thing where you do the do an experiment and you test an hypothesis, and then you go through the scientific method and you think, okay, well, this is the conclusion, and this is like either it's proven true or it's proven false. So like last year when I set that as June 1st or whatever, I think that the cycle, going through with Cristobal and everything, I think it was proven that maybe a little bit later is where we should be looking. So I mean, I think that like pretty much you're going all the way through until fall camp, like all the way until the end of July, beginning of August, as your open window, especially because you have these June official visits and everything, things like that. Yeah, I think that whole time is time that you can give to the coaches. And again, because we've now seen it in a full calendar year's cycle, whereas like last year, I'm like, he got here on campus and he basically had 2 weeks to recruit some guys, got some guys, missed on some other ones, but whatever. Now with that full year's cycle time, I'm like, well, maybe it should be by this time. Again, putting my viewpoint from the exterior on things. And then it turned out to be maybe a little bit later. And I'm going to take that as proof positive. Let's look a little bit later. Let's maybe go through, let's check back in, July, August, like in those times, see, okay, cool. So over the course of the entire 7-on-7 season, spring football for us, spring football, track seasons for high school, taking the time after the academic year, during 7-on-7 and family vacation season when players are visiting and really sitting down with their families and going through all their stuff. You get these, you get those final grades from your junior year, which matter as well, like all these different kind of things. And then maybe that timeline is pushed a little bit, but that's really where we saw a lot, not only for Miami, but across the sport, of these commitments and these, players actually making tangible moves forward in their recruitment. I think that will be the time I'm looking at last year. So moving it a little bit, but based upon what we saw on the trail last year.
I wonder how much media types and fans overemphasize 5 and 7. And I say that because in my mind, Mario Cristobal and staff may have to explain that.
Yeah.
Versus maybe it's there, it's on record the recruit knows, but maybe it's more about Miami's a cool brand. I like Miami, great destination, great school, great football brand. And Mario Cristobal knows what he's doing. I like this staff. I like him. I like my position coach. I like how we interact, blah, blah, blah. And it's more about that.
It's going to be some of both. And, it's just like going back to the old, NCAA football video game, like certain pitches have weight with certain players and certain don't, and like to think that other programs are not going to use Miami's record in 2022 as negative recruiting is asinine. Like that's foolhardy. Like if I worked at, Tennessee Tech or whatever, fictional school, Big State, to shout out, he got game. If I worked at Big State, I'm mentioning, and I'm recruiting the same player that Miami's recruiting. I'm mentioning, hey, we were 9-3 at Big State. They were 5-7. They're trying to build towards something. We already have something, and we're trying to elevate to the next level. So they're trying to work to where we are, where we are, which is better than them, and trying to move forward. And we need you, insert player here, to come and join us at Big State. But hey, if you want to go play for a team that might not even get to where we already are, go ahead and do that, right? And for some guys, that's going to be like, you know what, coach, I'm with it. Others are going to be like, I don't care. I want to hear about the academics. I want to hear about, whatever else, right? But to sit here and think that like other teams are not going to negative recruit against Miami in terms of the performance on the field last year, that doesn't make sense because they're going to use every advantage that they can. So like even just mentioning that, like, hey, Miami wasn't great. You sure you want to leverage your career on that? I mean, like Brandon Ennis, like he would have come to Miami. He would have. But like, he talked to several people that I know and I heard from them and they're just like, he was like, coach, I can't do it. I'm not sure what they got. Van Dyke's been injured. Who knows if he comes back? I don't know if he doesn't, what Jake got if he leaves. I don't know what Tyler is. I don't know. Clearly, they're not going to have Gaddis. So what does that say? And he's the wide receivers coach and offensive coordinator. That I don't know. But I do know what's going on up in Columbus. And you see the monsters that they've developed and put into the league at wide receiver, the position that he played over and over and over again, right? So the performance on the field definitely mattered there. And it, obviously did not with, Ray Joseph, who's just like, I'm going to Miami. Like Duke Johnson, I'm going to Miami, period. Whatever else you want to talk about. Are you, coach, do you work at Miami? Are you wearing orange, green, and white? Bye. See ya. And sometimes it's one of those things. But yeah, there's definitely going to be the negative recruiting. There's going to be the mention of the struggles of anything. Hey, the only wide receiver that Miami's had worse than damn recently has been Charleston Rambo. And he's not even in the league. Braxton Berrios is on his third contract. KJ Osborne just got another contract in Minnesota. Like Travis Benjamin was in the league forever. But I'm saying those first two, they're still in the league, not right now, but right now. Okay. But, are you going to leverage in terms of, this hypothetical wide receivers recruitment, are you going to leverage Braxton Berrios' 1-year deal, KJ Osborne's 2-year deal into getting a blue chip recruit? Maybe you do, right? But like, yeah, there's enough to negative recruit with Miami, including the 5-7 record. That's going to be a factor, and it's going to factor in more for certain people because, like, some people it matters, some people it doesn't. Some people want Plantons on the side with their braised oxtail. Some people don't, but it is what it is. So, yeah.
Our buddy Kyloran Miami Kane, super chat here. Ohio State, and I got a smudge on my screen. I can't see the next word, but I know there's an exclamation mark after that, so it must be positive. Ohio State exclamation mark. Okay, Michigan locking down the state. Yeah, Michigan has grabbed what looks to be 4 prominent Ohio-born and bred players. We just talked about that on our Michigan show. One of the top running backs in the country, a couple offensive linemen that actually Ohio State wasn't really looking at. We're not going to talk Ohio State and Michigan on a Miami show, but we are responding to super chats. So Kyloran Kane, Miami Kane, sorry. You are always welcome here, of course. You are always welcome, especially to give super chats. But you can also give a super chat if Ohio State does not have a top 5 recruiting class when it's all said and done, because that hasn't happened in a long time. So we got Daniel Henry coming back. And again, We will get back on track with Miami. Michigan ain't locking their own state up, Sparty.
I mean, look, it's the same thing as if you were to say, about the state of Florida. Nobody's locking up the state of Florida because there's way too many players and way too many great teams, and they're going to all go in. And, somebody wanted to go here and somebody moved from there and whatever. Like nobody's locking up the state of Georgia, not even Georgia. You know what I mean? Like it is one of those things, but hey.
All right. My next question is going to be looking at spring practice. Tim, we appreciate you being here. Tim, our USC guy. Please join Tim and Rick. They do a USC show for us every Sunday night at 8 Eastern on the USC channel. Oh, yes.
No, just putting the V's up. Best fight song in the world, man. Oh, such a great fight. Perfect fight song. Perfect.
My question for you, Cam, is spring practice is most important for blank
development. Like this is just about growth. That's it. That's one guy. I mean, like obviously we have new coordinators, so you got to install the defenses. They got to get defense and offense. You have to get familiar with those, comfortable with those, because you're going to have to take what you learn here and continue to go over that in your own brain over the course of the summer until you get back into structured workouts. I mean, yeah, you're going to all the guys are going to stay here. So they're going to play 7-on-7, you're going to get the defense together. They're going to work on all kinds of things, a player led only and everything like that. You're going to continue to run. You're going to continue to lift, all those kind of things. But you have to have a good foundation for what you're going to do so that by the time you come back, you can really build upon what was previously done. And yeah, just growing just your skills, okay, I know how to do this or whatever, but I'm going to, focus on, a couple different parts of my game, whatever it is for your position. It's like in the off season of baseball, like I'm not throwing fastballs, I'm throwing changeups because I need to get a feel for my changeup so that when spring training comes, I can now layer that in my start so that when we get to the regular season, I now have fastball and I have a changeup that I am comfortable with. I'm not thinking about, okay, where's the ball and what's my grip? And okay, let me get my tempo and let me get my release point. I've done it so much that it's now part of my game. Same thing, whether it's, because you've seen guys with one or two moves, like in pass rush, you can, the inside rip, the outside rip, maybe a swim or whatever, but do you have a counter on that? Do you have a spin? Like, how good are you, with your steps on a tackle and stunt? How, are you hitting your drop? Are you taking a false step in your drop, whether you're, in the back seven, if you're linebacker or safety or cornerback? Are you wasting steps? Are you taking that extra step to settle yourself before you move, right? And that's the thing that you see in all the sports. Like there's guys, I was just watching Charlotte and Eastern Kentucky in the CBI championship game of basketball. But I'm watching, there we go. Yeah, I'm watching the game and I can see this one dude is a shooter. Like he dead. I mean, every time he pulls up. But there was times he couldn't get his shot off because I'm going in and I'm taking this extra step and I'm trying to get myself settled. And that extra step is the window that you needed to get that shot off, right? So over the course of the offseason, I would hope that this guy is now working on how do I not take that extra gather step? How am I not doing that same kind of a thing? How are you working forward on your technique? I need that same thing from pretty much everybody in at their given position in football. I don't care if Tyler Van Dyke throws for 937 yards in the spring game, right? Are we looking at his footwork? Are we looking at his progressions? Are we looking at, being consistent in his release and everything? Are we looking to add these things? Because I know that he can throw deep. I know that he can throw smash. I know that he can throw, mesh. Can we add levels? Can we add switch? Can we add these other things so that now in the fall, we can add that full time? That for me, that and no injuries, because no more injuries, please, because you have Trevante Citizen who could have started last year and he's out for the year because he, blew his knee up in fall camp, but those two, I always and forever in practice, no injuries, please. But the development, looking at, strengthening what you already do well and really perfecting that, and then closing the gaps of those things that you cannot do well within the bounds of your physicality. How do you raise the floor on those things that are really like that are keeping you off of the field? How do you make those replacement level? How do you take those things that are replacement level and make them good? How do you take those things that are good and make them spectacular? Those elements of your technique and of your demonstrable performance. Though that's what spring is about. I don't care about the numbers at the end of the day from the spring game or something like that. This is all that real fine work of the journey of practice and development and whatever it is. And when I taught, there's a speaker. He was from Jesus, Emory University, Dr. Eric Nelson. He was the director of choirs at Emory. Really fantastic. And he talked about the moment of inspiration for positive change. And this whole speech was basically after you do something, that moment when you have finished is when your brain and your body are open to that immediate change to improve performance. And obviously we're talking about singing. So I had the rule in my classes, hey, cut the talking, because when I cut you off, it's not so that we can chat about what's done. It's so that I can dig in there and that I can work with you and improve your technique and performance. And now we're going to rehearse it again to close that gap and improve what you just did, right? And you see the same thing. Somebody just finishes a rep. It's not, all right, man, let me get some water. Let me go over by, the athletic trainer, young ladies out there with the water bottles. Let me go. No. Look, stop, blow the whistle, right? And you see Kevin Beard. There was a video of that. Look, you did this. I need you to do this. Immediate feedback. Now go do what I just said. And that's going to close that gap and improve that performance. That right there, that moment of inspiration when you are done with a rep of whatever it is, that's what spring is about.
Excellent point. I don't know that I had ever really given that much thought, but yeah, the time in between that performance and that evaluation can be crucial to somebody just kind of forgetting what did that feel like? What was that? What was I thinking in that moment that caused me to take that step or enunciate that word? Kind of
or whatever it is. Yeah,
whatever it is. Yeah.
I mean, but that's
immediate
like
feedback.
Even if you were taking a knife skills class, which I've taken before, right? So okay, I'm going to try to julienne. I'm going to do whatever. It's like, well, no, okay. If you're going to do the carrot, how are you going to? So instead of this, we're going to use a knife this way. We're going to do this. We're going to okay. Now get a new carrot, and you see the old one that you thought that you julienned, right? So we did that, and it was this way. Grab a new carrot. We're going to do this. Do it now, and that's that. So now you have the tactile, right, and the visual feedback. And I mean, for whether it's music or sport, they're very similar, right? But we go by what we see or hear, right? So in terms of music, I go by what I hear, or in football, like how you move, we go by what we see. And the player or singer, they go by what they feel, right? So we're talking about, singing in French, okay, or like how you're going to formulate your thing. Like, okay, what did you feel? How did you move? All right, you're going to go to play press man. Are you taking a drop step? Are you going to, drop, chop your feet and then go whatever? No, you're going to hinge off that right and open up off that left. I want to see that now. Nope, chop your feet, stop, do it again. Plant that right, hinge open, leave the right, open the left. Do it again, do it again, do it again. And you get that biometric, you get that sensation in your body of what does that feel like. Now I know how to do it. We're going to do it slow, and then we're going to build the speed and things like that. But that kind of granular development, that's what spring is about for me.
Good stuff. Absolutely. So if we take the last question I posed about spring practice and we applied it to any one player or group of players, however far you want to take this in regards to it being a huge spring for any one player, who would that be?
I want to say everybody in the 2022 recruiting class. So everybody going into their redshirt freshman / sophomore year, whether that's a Cyrus Moss who redshirted because he was, 6'6" and 183 pounds, playing defensive end, by the way. So like that's not going to work. Whether it's Nigel Kelly, who flashed elite talent and performance as one of the younger guys on the team, turned 18 during last season. So the first half of the year, he's wreaking havoc off the bench at 17 years old, right? Whether it's him, whether it's Wesley Basainth, whether it's Markeith Williams, whether it's Trevante Citizen, who didn't play it down last year because he got injured, whether it's a Jakari Brown, who played way more snaps than I'm sure that he thought he was going to play, going in behind somebody who going into last season was a pretty well thought of prospect and potential first round draft pick. I think across the board, yeah, the 2022 recruiting class, because, this is the time that they need to take a step. Anez Cooper, offensive lineman who all of a sudden, played right tackle and looked kind of, maybe as a project because, he needed to drop some weight. He dropped some, but then he kicks inside the guard and all of a sudden, whoa, hey, wait, we're cooking with fish grease. But I would say across the board, the 2022 recruiting class, being here for the full year, everybody being here for spring because everybody did not early enroll last year. They've already gone through a full season. They've already been in the weight room. They've already been through, the fourth quarter program off season, here on campus and everything. I think that whole entire group, and you're going to really start to see the cream rise to the top, and then other guys are going to find rotation roles. But I think, being here and settling themselves and really taking a step forward into crafting whatever their role is going to be with this organization moving forward. I think, the entire 2022 recruiting class, I would really love to see get settled and take a big step forward.
Cam Underwood, State of the U, get on over there. Miami's in the Sweet 16 in both men's and women's basketball. And of course, it's spring practice as well in football. Damian Hernandez. So this brings me to a favored subject right here. If we miraculously go 8-4 or 9-3, I say recruiting goes out through the roof. So let me take the first portion of this because I explained this a few weeks ago, and this is one of my pet projects I enjoy. That, 65 teams in the Power 5, add 4 to that this season with the 4 newcomers to the Big 12. 69 teams in the Power 5. From 2021 to 2022, 27 of them had a marked improvement or decline, meaning, by my definition, at least 3 wins, increase or decrease.
Mm-hmm.
If I release today, now, so for example, off the top of my head, in my preseason predictions, I either hit dead on the record of every team in the Power 5 or came within one game on like 42 of 65, something like that. Yeah. So like 65 to 70% of the Power 5, I hit my prediction within either dead on or within one game. Okay, I'm not saying I'm going to do that every year. And I'm not even saying that's good. I'm just using that as an example because if we said the project is to find the 27 teams, which may be on the high end, it hasn't typically been quite that high, but it's going to be in the 20s most likely. Find the 20-some teams out of 65 who are going to elevate by at least 3 games or decline by at least 3 games. And I released those predictions. I guarantee most of college football fans would say, Mark, you're an idiot. What? You're crazy. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. And it is going to happen. Now, I may not hit all of them. I won't hit all of them, but this is going to happen with a ton of teams this year. Yeah. And Miami has the coaching staff with a track record and the ability on the roster to hit that 8-win mark.
Absolutely. And again, we have plenty of talent on the roster, even though obviously it was a struggle to turn that talent into on-field production last year. But yeah, you have veteran coaches and you have, I think, schemes and, things on both sides of the ball that are going to be maybe more advantageous for the talent to show itself as elite and whatnot, and a schedule that's not very difficult, like we've made it difficult. I appreciate that, King Cam. But Miami's made it more difficult on ourselves year after year. I mean, like if you go back to the beginning, the first couple of times that I was on here, and even on defunct shows for, like the call in, whatever, blog talk radio, phone podcast that we used to have with State of the U. Always say, if we handle our business, if Miami does their job, it's going to be very hard for other teams to compete. If we just handle our own business, and Miami has not handled our own business, we have not done that very often. And you can look at, like, sometimes, like a couple of years ago at Pittsburgh, with the flea flickers and all the vertical passes, that was 2021 when Lashley was last year and everything. Sprinted out to a lead. They got a score. Cool. We get two more. It's 21-7 real quick. But again, if I can, outside of the HBCU games, if I can name the few times that we've done what we needed to do, that we've, forced the other team into turnovers and whatnot. I mean, you want to talk, and I'm sure I said turnovers, and what did everybody just think of? Turnover chain 2016, 2017, right? Man, we took the ball away and then we went and we spent that cash. Well, we got, yeah, but few times and far between has that been the case. We've always been fighting ourselves. Operational penalties, these, things coming off the sideline, calling a timeout after a, give up a touchdown, extra point, timeout, kickoff into the end zone, timeout. So commercial break, kickoff, commercial break. So you didn't have 7 minutes real time since the opponent scores. You come off the sideline to start that drive, timeout. For what? Right? But that is emblematic of not handling business, even something small like that, right? All these pre-snap penalties, all these other kinds of things. And if Miami were just able to have a plan and set out and work and accomplish that plan, that's how you get beating Florida State by 6 touchdowns or 7 touchdowns, whatever it was, 8 touchdowns, I forget. But by 80 million points, right? We did what we needed to do. They were very bad, right? But even that year, they found ways to keep games close. We went out, we did what we needed to do. We forced them into doing what they probably didn't want to do, and then we kept it going. If you're thinking back to the Nkosi Perry 27-7 comeback game, right? For a good long time, Florida State did what they wanted to do, and Miami was not able to accomplish what our goals were, or, and do what we needed and wanted to do. But then that flipped, and then, okay, it's a 21-0 run. We end that game, we win, boom, done. But you can point to very few times that that's happened. So it's really incumbent upon Miami to now do what we're set out to do, to handle our business in the way that we do it. And hey, when Coach Paul Johnson was at Georgia Tech, the way that they did things was running the ball. And they had that left guard move early, and they're going to run that wishbone, and they're going to run the ball 18 million times a game. Navy, Army, whatever, they're going to be like that. There's other teams like, when Mike Leach was coaching Washington State and Mississippi State, God rest his soul, but they're going to throw the ball 90 times a game, and they're going to have checkdowns and swings and screens and things like that that are going to replace the run game in the offense by these kinds of passes. But they did the things in the way that they want to. And I'm not saying it was perfect, but more often than not, they're playing the game on the terms that they dictate, the way that they want to do it. And Miami is not always, let me not say that, but too often Miami has played on the other team's terms, because we had this game plan and we wanted to do that, but we turned the ball over 3 times. So now what we wanted to do was all the way out the window. Or I'm Josh Gaddis and I didn't look at the roster that I had. So after, losing to Middle Tennessee, I finally meet with my quarterback and say, hi, my name's Josh. Your name's Tyler. Can we sit here and talk about what the routes are that you like to throw and what you do very well? Because apparently, obviously, I don't know. Right? But it took until 5 weeks into the season to have that heart-to-heart to actually get there. So why are we playing the game on somebody else's term? That's where it comes from. And if Miami plays on their terms against a schedule that's not really that hard, 8, 9 wins should be there. I mean, obviously you're going to get some bad luck and some things like that. I mean, like, whatever. But like, the performance should be able to merit that kind of record if we're finally able to play the game on the terms that we want to dictate, which again has been few times and far between in the last forever.
They won the FCS game. They beat Georgia Tech. They beat Virginia and Virginia Tech. Who am I missing? There's 4. They must have won another non-conference game against somebody. Anyway.
Southern Miss.
Southern Miss, yes. Yeah, those Virginia and Virginia Tech games weren't necessarily easy. especially Virginia. That was the 4 overtimes or whatever it was, 12-9.
Yeah, the 14-12 after 4
Like
overtimes. I mean, you're a play away from really, really running Virginia Tech out of their own barn, and then you let them back in the game, and things like that. So you get the intermittent performance where it's like, yeah, we're doing really well, and then like that leaves a lot to be desired, and now we're kind of playing defense and we're trying to keep them out of the end zone at the end to sustain the win. So yeah, it was up and down, but I mean, yeah, like the talent is there, the coaching is there. It just whatever the missing piece of synergy is. Whether you need, I don't know, somebody screaming in the locker room, you need Cam Kinchins to turn into, Ray Lewis in there, or, Ed Reed in college, I'm hurt dog. You know what I mean? Like if we need something like that, if we need I'm watching Friday Night Lights, the show now. So I've read the book. I've clearly seen the movie. But now I'm watching the television series of Friday Night Lights. Taking it back to the movie, if you need Ivory Christian, the big defensive end who never said 2 words, but in the state championship game halftime, he went plumb the fuck off, so that je ne sais quoi, so that everything comes together. If that's what you need, hey, hopefully we find that, right? Because obviously we're going to have guys who are going to run fast. We're going to, a quarterback who throws the ball well. We're going to have guys who block. We're going to have guys who tackle. We're going to have all those things. But if you're missing that ineffable thing, right, of inspiration and connection and community and family to really have this team come together, I hope to God that they find it. But like having big, fast, strong athletes that other teams want and still won't want Ted and still want, reigning All-American safety in Cameron Kinchins. You have coaching staff that is produced at stop after stop after stop after stop. The framework is there. The ingredients for a gourmet meal, as in a really good winning season, are there. I don't know who the chef is who's going to put it all together and scream at everybody on their stations. You're on the fry station. You're on the potato station. You're over here doing risotto. You better not stop stirring that damn risotto. You roasting chicken. You doing whatever. And who's going to put it all together? And that's Cristobal's job. But like, it's not just on him. And hopefully we get somebody who's able to do that. And this team that really wants to come together and not just like each other. And honestly, I don't really care if they like each other. They got to play hard and they got to work together from first whistle to last on a couple Thursdays, a couple Fridays, and some Saturdays in the fall.
I enjoy the analogies. Those are well spun. To your earlier point, and I'm not saying this didn't happen, but you would think anyone would come into that Josh Gaddis role, seeing that Tyler Van Dyke was putting up 350 and 3 to 4 touchdowns every week for 7 or 8 consecutive games. 2 of them come to mind in particular. NC State and Pitt had, outside of Clemson, probably the 2 best defenses in the conference.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just watch the game tape and see what this guy does well and what worked. And, we can work off of that. But this should probably be the foundation of what we're doing in the passing game next year.
Should. And like, I know that the ratio clearly from Lashley to Gaddis and running a Cristobal team's offense is going to want to have a higher run ratio than Lashley did, especially, and like Lashley got away from it because the offensive line couldn't block anybody. But they did get better that year, and they did get better through last season. But yeah, they couldn't really run the ball. So it's like, hey, I'm going to throw it and we're going to do these things. But yeah, you're not even going to the concepts. Like I remember, like it was the 3rd game, I want to say, until I was like, oh, they finally ran smash, the high-low read concept for TVD to throw, like, I mean, maybe they called 1 or 2 that got sacks on them or whatever, but like, you're only running that concept. Not even saying it has to be out of this formation with these exact guys that are like, that's the beauty of the, modern offense, Bill Walsh and the West Coast. We're running the same concepts. We're just going to dress it up and, have different personnel and different formations with it. But like, they didn't even run that concept much. And I'm just like, what are you doing? Looking for a new job. And he finally got one. So Nick Saban has the Wayward School, or the Nick Saban School for Wayward Coaches in general. Mike Locksley at Maryland has the Mike Locksley Wayward Miami offensive coordinators, because Dan Enos, when he got fired, he went there, and then Josh Gaddis gets fired and he replaces Dan Enos, who left that same exact place. So yeah, if this offensive coordinator doesn't work out, I think he's going to give Mike Locksley a call and move up to College Park.
And if you can adjust your qualifications to fit in Kevin Sumlin, I'm sure there's a place for him along
Oh yeah.
And
Well, I mean,
he's
I was
made it
talking
to
specifically
Maryland as
from
well.
Miami,
Sure.
as in
Yeah.
I'm going there. But yeah, I mean him as well. So yeah.
All right, folks, we appreciate you being here. Nefarious 247 says 247 typically rolls off my lips, followed by then sports. That's where I was
Right.
going there. But Nefarious 247, football follows basketball. Build the program.
I mean, hopefully, I mean, Jim Larinaga is a Hall of Fame coach. I think that Mark Cristobal still has a ways to go to get there. But, when left to his own devices without a bullshit inclusion in a NCAA scandal of which he was fully exonerated and Miami was fully exonerated and everything to ruin multiple recruiting classes and the timeline of this program, you see what he's been able to do and accomplish. Like, just left to his own devices without the NCAA meddling. Jim Larinaga is a pretty damn good coach, guys. So, hopefully getting his own players in, getting coordinators to really buy into what we're doing here and everything, Mario Cristobal hopefully will be able to prove that as well. But yeah, and towards building this program, I think going back to the earlier soliloquy that I had, spring football and the development of the skill of the players on the roster from top to bottom is integral into that pursuit and performance moving forward.
Nefarious coming back with Cam spitting fire.
Hot fire.
And because you sent us that super chat there, Nefarious, I see your other question here. Cam, does Miami have to win 9 to 10 this year? I don't necessarily understand the question. Have to win 9 to 10 this year, but take it.
Have to win? No. Would love if they did? Yes. But I mean, there's. I mean, you really have to look at the 2022 season as a year zero. We're doing whatever and we're tearing it all the way down to the foundation and going to rebuild. So you want to see a step forward, obviously. I don't think that it is mandatory for 9 to 10. Definitely Mario Cristobal is not going to be on the hot seat if we don't win 9 to 10. I mean, as in, he will not be fired this year. Now, obviously, there will be, if there's another 5-7 or a 4-8, shout out to the University of Florida for that, and other things of that nature, the discontent of everyone will be palpable. But absent a 9 or 10 win season, we're not talking about he's going to pack his stuff, So if you're looking at it from that prism, I don't think that it's necessary for there to be growth of the program towards, a conference championship or, playoff berth or something like that. Again, while I would love it to be linear, as in we were at 5-7 and then we're at 9-3 and then we're at 11-1. I would love that kind of progression, but again, I don't necessarily think that is realistic because development is always progressional, whether it's in whatever arena. And as someone with the education degree and 15 years of more than that if you can count tutoring and summer camps and things like that, but a long history in education, trust and believe that growth and development is progressional. The one thing that's different than that is like, having a growth spurt and like, puberty and growing height, but other than that, developing a skill or something is progressional. Some days it's going to be there, some days it's not. And it's going to, maybe 4 steps forward, 1 step back, another 4 steps forward, but that's the progressional nature of things. So yeah, I mean, you can still have that. So you can even have an 8-win season this year, lose a couple games that were winnable, but learn along the way, take those growing pains, dang, we could have had 10, but we dropped these 2 because we didn't execute whatever, and then come back and grow from that next year. So the have to part of your question is really what I'm talking about. I mean, would I love Miami to win 9 or 10 or more? Hell yeah. I went to Miami, go team fight. Absolutely. But I don't think, for the, professional fortunes of the coaching staff or, whatever prospects the players have, it's not a requirement like that, even though it is a goal, so like we don't have to, but we should aspire to and hopefully work towards that. But I don't think that the season would be a failure or anything like that if Miami failed to win 9 or 10 games, even though obviously we want more. And I know that people just heard me say, wait, if we're saying that means 7-6 or like 8-5 is a positive step forward. Yes, it is. And it's not it's not the best and it's not what we all want. We, myself included, I want more than that. But if it's 8-5 for the bowl game, 8-4, we don't get to the conference championship game and we lose the bowl game, I wouldn't It wouldn't be my favorite thing. But sitting here a year from now, we would inexorably say that was a step forward from 5-7. And that's what I mean by that. So there's still room for positive growth short of the 9 or 10 that you're saying. But I myself personally would like 9 or 10. Shit, I want to go 12-0. I don't know what we're talking about, but like I don't necessarily think that that's realistic where we are in the terms of the development of this program. But yeah, you can still feel good about the projected path forward if we fall short of 9 or 10 wins, if that makes sense. But that's a really good question.
Yeah, for programs like Miami, fill in the blank, Florida State, Texas, that have been down, there's a clear difference between understanding where you are and seeing a win total as a step of progress, a great indicator of progress versus what the standard is. The standard is something completely different. The standard is competing for national championships.
Right.
But that can't necessarily always be achievable based where you are currently.
Right.
And just to extend on Cam's earlier point, I think a strong indication of this program underachieving is the team that wins the Coastal Division has not necessarily been a world beater, but that has been the standard in the division just by definition of that team, by objective measures has proven to be the team to win the most games out of 8 in the conference, et cetera, and win the games. But in the 2018-19, take out 2020 because there were no divisions, the 2018, 19, and 21 seasons, when Miami was on the field with said team that won the division, Miami won the game. So it would follow that they should be able to defeat the other teams that the team that won the division was able to defeat.
And there's that right there shows the inconsistent nature of the performances on the field for the Miami Hurricanes, right? So if we eliminate some of the head-scratching bad losses, right, then all of a sudden you're going in that direction. So again, that can be, it would be tangible as in on the win and loss record, right? But that's the intangible thing of for years of saying, okay, there's going to be a bad loss, right? We're going to probably lose, Clemson on the schedule, we're losing to Clemson. It's a toss-up against Florida State, Texas A&M, and then maybe a bad off-the-radar loss. Last year, there were lots of off-the-radar losses. But eliminating those and taking that step forward, I know that, they feel holier than thou and everything now. But what I just described, those bad losses that ruin seasons, that was the literal definition of Clemsoning, guys, for years, right? Clemson's really good. And then Clemson and lost to whatever, before Sam Hartman was there, Wake Forest back in the day, or they lost to they had a crossover against Georgia Tech. They play Georgia Tech every year, but they lose to Georgia Tech. They lost to a bad insert team here, and it's they could have been better, and they had this 8-4, 9-3 season, but Clemson. That's what it is, and I hate to say it, but it's been so pervasive that it's Clemsoning was the one a year. This game ruins our season year, right? Our game, that was the Clemsoning. It's been so many. It's Middle Tennessee, that was one, and you know what I mean? But getting rid of those would be a clear step forward. Just not, like I said it before, not playing down to the level of our opponents, and we did that over and over. Even last year, you saw that. You saw playing down to or below the level of our opponents. Respectfully, and they're a fine team, but Southern Miss 30-6, what? Down going into the half until a late touchdown. Excuse me? Are you joking me with this rock? Come on. No, that's no. Well, they ran Wildcat with Frank Gore Jr. in the first game, so we only prepared for that. It didn't prepare for them to actually run offense. You sound stupid. You didn't prepare. You didn't prepare at all for them to run base offense at all. Cool. Middle Tennessee had a once in a 90-year passing performance. That was the outlier of all outliers. I have never seen an outlier outlie more than that one outlied.
Yeah.
It was, I still got the tweets somewhere. It was, I forget who I was. It was a bunch of different stat outlets. They're we haven't seen this since we've been around. We haven't seen this in 90 years. We haven't seen
multiple 85+ yard pass plays. It just
bro,
doesn't
like
happen.
like 4 of them. I want to say it was like all those things: the run after catch, the 85-yard passes, the multiple 90-yard passes. Like the things like that. They're like, we haven't seen this kind of explosive passing against anybody since Jesus, World War One. What do you? I don't know. Like literally, but like that's where you play down to and below the talent on the other roster. And then it was so outbalanced that they had a literal once in a lifetime since World War One kind of passing performance. What are we talking about? But unfortunately, there's that, and there's other ones that we can point to with Miami. We need to start to get those out of our system and then be able to move forward.
8 turnovers against Duke. Who turns the ball over 8 times? The worst teams in America don't turn the ball over 8 times.
Don't. Program record, like as far as we could see, because they didn't even like the sports information department. They said, literally, because we were in the press box and we're going down and asking them, like, hey, one of the head individual, his name is Cam. So every time somebody asks him a question in the press box, my head snaps up. I'm like, oh, you're talking to the one who works for the athletic department, right? And like literally, like I remember multiple people were like, oh, hey, so Cam, and they walked over there. You hear him. So like 8 turnovers, and like, of course, when it's great, they're they're walking down. They got a little handout. They're sending the emails. They got the Mr. Jackson, who does the in press box announcements, who worked at South Miami when I was student teaching in Miami a while, like many moons ago. Ironic, but whatever. But they're feeding it to him, and he's members of the media. I just wanted to let you know. They're 8 turnovers happened, and multiple people walked over there. Hey, Cam, I was just wondering. When he responds to that question, I'll let you know, because he hasn't. And I mean, like I said, I was there, I was looking, I heard multiple people ask it. Like, okay, cool. So like we're literally all on, the interwebs and everything. I found the games that were closest in terms of interceptions thrown. It was like the last 2 games of 1942 or something stupid like that. But the individual turnovers were not listed. So it was like, we threw 6 interceptions. I know that we threw 6 interceptions in this game, so that matches that. I don't know if there were other turnovers in this 6 interception game, so I don't know, but like things like that. But again, the stats that I just quoted were from since World War One and 1942. Have not seen the like of in that time. Those are the kind of performances that I would love to not ever see again in my lifetime. But again, and those are always on the bad side, or it seems to be recently. And yeah, those kind of things are definitely not helpful to the performance of the Miami Hurricanes.
Okay, Lauren, we need a 320 guy next to LT, 2 of them, and a wide receiver 1, fast 1.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about in terms of recruiting, yeah, we need big dudes. I mean, obviously, Darrell Jackson deciding to go to Florida State was a negative to the defensive tackle rotation, because he was starting next to LT. But getting it, I mean, I would love it to be it. The thing is, you don't have to be 320 these days. You can be a little bit more svelte, but still, like we can't have another 280 guy. You know what I mean? Like we need a larger guy, or a couple, and we're working on some of those guys and everything, and then a double, number 1 wide receiver. Yeah, who's just there, man. You just need a really good number 1 wide receiver. I would kill for a Leonard Hankerson type. I would kill for Kevin Beard in college. He would be the number 1 right now. Like, I mean, it was one of the saddest days of being a fan and running a website in a long time. But like Amon Richards, like the day that he, had to retire because of his career-ending injury and everything. But like, and Amon Richards on this team, I mean, he's the number 1, 2. Like, how big is the gap between what we saw from Amon Richards and the top of this wide receiver rotation? It's, I mean, all the way across the Indian and Pacific Oceans. Like, I mean, it is like there's a gulf between where he was and what we got. So like, yeah, getting a number 1 wide receiver, and that's the thing that we've talked about and everything, and that does have to be a real key in this recruiting class, because I don't think that you're going to get one. I mean, there's not one of those guys available in the portal, because if we knew, like, we would know the name, right? And Gary Bryant just had a good visit to Oregon, excuse me, and he's going to go visit there again. So, and he's not necessarily that dude in that way. He's very good. He's very good. He's very good, and I would take him on my team. But he's not your 6'1" big X receiver, him ball, we're throwing it over there, deal with it. He's not that guy, but I would still take him on my team, right? But yeah, that's really going to come into focus in this recruiting class. It's really, really, really going to become essential that you get, one of those guys. So, Jeremiah Smith is saying that, as long as Heartline is in Columbus with Ryan Day, then he's going to go there because, like, he fancies himself to be on the level of all the receivers that they've put into the NFL. And I mean, like, number 88 from the Indianapolis Colts, his kid, who wears number 18 for the Acorns right now, he's incredible, and he should be in the league. Like, it was funny. I was talking with a friend of mine, Harrison Jr. I don't think that there's a team in the league in which he's not in the top 3 in their wide receiver room today. And honestly, we went through the entire league. It was on the phone. It took a while. Went through the entire league. We only came up with like 4 teams that he's not one of the top 2 receivers in the I formation, XZ kind of formation. You know what I mean? Like, he's that kind of good already. And so Jeremiah Smith is like, yeah, I want to be like that. So I'm talking about all these first rounders, add on Harrison Jr. because, like, believe that. Yeah, he's like that. So Jeremiah Smith's like, I'm going to be doing that. It's from Chaminade. It's down here. He's probably the best wide receiver recruit that's been from down here in 5-6 years. He's capital letters different. Cool. His teammate Josiah Trader is a 5-star as well. Got to get him then. These other guys, like, you can't. Again, you're not going to get everybody. I want to get the top guys, but if you're saying, cool, I'm going somewhere else, now then, to your point, building this roster, we got to lock this down. We got to continue this trend of, okay, we're going to recruit down here. But then a guy like, and I mean, like, to me, and I know this is going to sound defeatist, I'm moving on from Jeremiah Smith, because when was the last time that a number 1 wide receiver, that a 5-star wide receiver recruit committed to O State and then all of a sudden flipped to somewhere else? Mark, if you have a time, let me know, because I've been following recruiting for a good long time. I cannot remember. And we're even talking back to Benjamin Victor. We're talking about like a number 1 5-star, your Julian Flemings, your whomever. I know Jamison Williams down the line transferred off of that team, but nobody committed there, and somebody else came in and then let me get that. Do you have one? Because I don't have one in forever, right? So for me, Jeremiah Smith, cool. Go enjoy. Josiah, what's up? Because you're not getting away. You're not. If you wanted to, you should have committed there with him back then. But now that he's gone and I'm letting him, I will accept what he says and let him go on that. You're not leaving. Hopefully we'll see. But I mean, like, yeah, the recruiting, especially at defensive tackle and wide receiver, is really, really integral to the future development of this program moving forward. And I mean, I trust Cristobal. I trust the group. Kevin Beard, I believe, will be able to get the job done. I don't know I hope for Josiah and whomever else, but I mean, there's still work to be done in terms of reshaping this roster in its entirety. But yeah, defensive tackle and wide receiver, that had to be at the top of the list.
Same high school has 2 4/5-star wide receivers.
That is correct, sir.
Wow.
The quarterback just committed to NC State, said Bailey. The running back, Bullet, I forget, but he committed somewhere P5 also. And all 4 of them are like best friends, and everything like that. And there's more where that came from. So yeah, like they're pretty on. They're the team that had, what was it? I forget, somebody in the chat probably knows, 92-0 in a half, I want to say. Yeah, and scored. Well, they scored 8 touchdowns on defense. They scored 7 touchdowns in like 12 offensive snaps. It was stupid. It was stupid.
Wow. I went to a decent sports high school, and people are even surprised that I went to school with an NBA player and an NFL player. So that doesn't even happen a whole lot, but that is like,
yeah,
crazy.
No, Chaminade's very good, and they've been like that. John Beeson went to Chaminade, and Like, yeah, they've been a very good top end team for a good long time. They're on their second championship window. Back in the '90s with Mark Wandolo, who ran that wing T before he went out to Cypress Bay. They had very, very good teams at Chaminade, and then now with Damon Jones and whoever they have a coach now, they do pretty well for themselves.
4 Power 5 players on the same offense. Wow. Nefarious 247, thank you so much for the contribution. Miami Sweet 16, both real men and real women.
Okay.
Thank you for that. And Nefarious also says, I can live with 7-5 and a bowl victory.
So 8-5 with a bowl win?
Yeah.
Including the bowl? Okay. Yeah. I mean, obviously, like, my goal is to shoot for higher. I'm with you on that. And depending on how the 5 happen, but in that world, I mean, now we're talking about like really, really needing that 9 or 10 wins in 2024. But I think that we should be on that path regardless. But yeah.
Yeah, and if that 7-5 is, okay, lost that game by a field goal, lost that 1-score game, we were within 10, Yeah. It's like we're there.
Right.
Versus we lost by 4 touchdowns to the better teams on the schedule. That's a whole different 7-5 for me in terms of evaluation. It's the same.
I agree. And there's going to be plenty of measuring stick games because you got the return game from A&M, you got Florida State every year, and you got Clemson again because clearly the ACC, hate us though they do, they know that the brand of Miami brings in viewers, and they have hoped for the long time that Miami would be able to do something. So, like, yeah, I mean, no free passes or anything, but like, yeah, Miami and Clemson. And I mean, again, in that COVID season, that was a really, really big game that got big numbers. They were like, good, because remember, that game was not on the schedule even. And then, some COVID outbreaks happened, and then they were like, hold on, wait, you're good and you're good. You're playing. And one of those teams is Miami, and the other one is like the flagship of this conference recently in Clemson. So we have a team that people know and a team that even they hear the name of and they have the whisper of a memory from forever ago. They're going to watch that on 8 o'clock, ESPN or ABC National. Let's go. Boom. Right. So, hey, we got to play them again, and that's fine. Like, let's make it happen. But you're going to get plenty of, measuring stick games. And then, like, you got blown out by Duke because you turned the ball over 8 times. So, like, well, I don't even think they're on the schedule this year. But, regardless, I think every week is a week that you can, prove yourself. And I've been thinking about this for a good long time. The last thing I'll say before we get out of here, because I know that I'm 15 minutes over because I've been rambling, but North Carolina State is not going with MJ Morris this year. Brennan Armstrong transferred there to go with Robert Anae. Duh. And, kind of rekindle that 4,000-yard passing, or those 4,000-yard passing seasons of previous when they were together at Virginia. So that presents its own problem. And, hey, if you have MJ Morris and he's going to continue to play as well, I think that that's a high ceiling kid as well. So, but, yeah, if you're just like, oh, yeah, they're going to, and that was completely my oversight. It was completely a thing. Like, somebody texted me who would watch the show where they're like, they're not going to play Armstrong. I was like, oh, I'm a moron. And I forgot about that. So if you watch that show from, whenever ago, you're like, oh yeah, like MJ Morris, he's very talented, 4-star kid, baseball, football. Like, yeah, definitely plays well. I think he's going to be a very good quarterback with the potential NFL future. But like next year, like, it'd be hard for me to see Brennan Armstrong not being their starter, coming into play with their former offensive coordinator for a guy that he was very prolific, playing for. So, but him on the field for them with that team, right? And that's a solid NC State program that elevates everything there. So, like, yeah, there's going to be plenty of opportunities for Miami to prove themselves in the 2023 season, that being another one of them. And, I'm interested to see how things, turn out, from all reports, everybody's doing well in practice. We get the clips of Tyler throwing the ball well and they're like, yeah, cool. But again, for me, it's the granular internal development. And then, we'll see the spring game and then we'll go from there.
March Madness featuring Miami, a go-to state of the U. What do you got there, Cam?
Yeah, man. Got a bunch of good stuff. So just going over and be sure that you check that out. The women play on Friday afternoon. The men play on Friday evening. So there's that. Justin DeTavio has a couple other pieces up there. I think Cap Kane put up a thing with the FOCO partnership. He's the one. They had the bobbleheads earlier. They got some other new gear. So if you're looking for some new swag, this is a great time. People talk about like summer bodies are made in the spring. Like your fall wardrobe could be made this spring also. So if you go click on that link and see what's right there, myself personally, I don't get any money from it. So like, don't think, okay, Cam's just saying it because I'm not getting a influencer partnership with them. So like, I'm just telling you because the designs are great. I know everybody's always looking for some new Miami gear. Maybe they can help you out. That would be, a right hand washes left hand, good symbiotic relationship kind of a thing. So that could be there for you, all of that and more. Be sure that you come and check out stateoftheu.com. Please come on over and fan with us. I'm at Underwood Sports on Twitter. You can always hit me up. And again, I met another fan this week. I forget his name though, but it was a pleasure to meet you. But if you see me out here somewhere in South Florida, again, I'm nice. I don't bite. I won't scream at you. I promise. Love to see you. Thank you so much for consuming the content, spending the time with us, and we will see you next week.
Thank you, Cam. Everybody get on back here next Wednesday at 7 Eastern